Hey guys, tonight we're heading out to sea. We're going back to the ancient world, to the sun-drenched, rugged coastlines of the Mediterranean. But we're not going to be aboard a great war galley or a wealthy merchant ship. We're going to be in a small, simple, open boat, in the company of one of history's most overlooked and unsung laborers. Tonight, we're going to experience what it was like to be a fisherman. We'll feel the sting of the salt spray on our faces, the burn of the rough ropes on our hands, and the deep, gnawing anxiety of a life that was a constant. Daily gamble against the power of the sea for a few. Meager fish, and let's be perfectly honest, you, with your modern appreciation for things like waterproof gear, weather radar, and a grocery store where fish is reliably available, would not have made a good ancient fisherman. Your romantic idea of a relaxing day on the water would be quickly shattered by the reality of backbreaking labor. Terrifyingly sudden storms, and a diet that consisted mainly of the fish nobody else wanted to buy. You'd probably just get horribly seasick and then be thrown overboard as being useless. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a simple click for you, but it's a massive show of support for this channel, and helps me to keep launching these historical voyages. And, as is our tradition, I'd love to see where in the world you're listening from tonight. Please post your city or country and the local time in the comments. It's always a joy to see our global community gathering. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your life is decided by the sea. You are born in a small, poor fishing village. A cluster of rough, whitewashed stone huts clinging to a rocky cove on the coast of the Aegean Sea. Your world is not a world of green, fertile fields or bustling city markets. Your world is a world of salt and wind and the endless, rhythmic crash of the waves against the shore. The very air you breathe is thick with the smell of the sea, a complex perfume of salt, of drying nets, and of the faint, underlying scent of fish guts. You are a fisherman's son. This is not a career path you have chosen. It is your inheritance. Your father is a fisherman. His father was a fisherman, and his father before him, for as many generations as the stories of your village can remember. You have inherited not land or wealth, but a set of skills, a deep and wary respect for the sea, and a very low social status. In the great cities, the philosophers and the poets write of the nobility of the farmer who works the earth, or the glory of the soldier who fights for the polis. They rarely write of you. To them, you are a marginal figure. You are a man who does not own land, the true source of all wealth and status. You are seen as rough, uncouth, and perpetually poor. You smell of fish, a scent that marks you as a member of the lowest class of free men. Your education begins as soon as you can walk. Your school is the rocky beach and your father's small, open boat. You do not learn to read the words of Homer. You learn to read the much more important and much more dangerous text of the sea. Your father teaches you. He teaches you to read the sky, to see the subtle change in the clouds that foretells a coming storm. He teaches you to read the water, to see the faint ripple on the surface that betrays a school of fish moving beneath. He teaches you to read the flight of the seabirds, to know that a flock of gulls diving in the distance is a sign of a feeding frenzy, and a good place to cast your nets. You learn the secret geography of your coastline. You memorize the location of every submerged rock, every treacherous reef that could tear the bottom out of your boat. You learn where the best fishing grounds are for each season of the year, the deep water, where the big tuna run in the spring, the sheltered coves where the mullet gather in the autumn. This is not knowledge that is written in books. It is a map that you must carry in your own head. A map drawn from the experience of 100 generations of your ancestors. Your first journeys on the sea are as a small boy in your father's boat. The boat is not a grand vessel. It is a small, open fishing boat, perhaps 20 feet long, powered by a single, square sail when the wind is right, and by the hard, rhythmic pull of your father's oars when it is not. The first few times, you are terribly seasick, your small body heaving over the side of the boat, adding your own meager contribution to the sea. But you learn to endure it. Your first jobs are simple ones. You bail the water that constantly seeps through the wooden planks of the hull. You learn to tie the complex knots that are the language of the fisherman, and you learn the endless, tedious, and absolutely vital task of mending the nets. You sit on the beach with your father and the other men of the village, a small, quiet community of labor. You watch their gnarled, calloused hands as they work with a netting needle, deftly repairing a tier, replacing a frayed section. You learn that your very survival depends on the integrity of these simple, woven linen threads. Historians will one day debate the true economic status of a man like you. The writers of your time, the wealthy city dwellers, will often portray you as a figure of abject poverty, always one bad catch away from starvation. But archaeologists, excavating villages like yours, will find a more complex picture. They will find simple homes. Yes, but they will also find a few pieces of fine, imported pottery, a sign that on a good year, a fisherman could earn a small surplus, a tiny taste of the great commercial world that lay beyond his cove. But you know the truth. Your life is a constant, precarious gamble. You are governed not just by the laws of the distant city, but by the unwritten laws of your own community. This is an obscure but vital part of your world. You have your own customs for who has the right to fish in which grounds, for how a great, unexpected catch is to be shared among the village, and for the duty of every man to help another who is in trouble at sea. This is the law that matters. The law of mutual survival. As you grow into a young man, your role in the boat increases. You now take your place at the oars, your own back and shoulders straining to pull the heavy wooden blades through the water. You learn to haul the heavy, wet nets, your hands becoming raw and then calloused from the rough. Salt-encrusted ropes. You learn the feel of a full net, the thrilling, heavy weight that promises a good day's pay, and you learn the deep, hollow, sinking feeling of pulling for an hour, only to find the net contains nothing but a few worthless crabs and a tangle of slimy seaweed. You learn to love and to fear the sea in equal measure. On a calm, summer morning, it is a place of breathtaking beauty, the water a sheet of blue glass, the sun warm on your back, but you have also seen it turn, in a matter of minutes, into a raging, gray monster of wind and waves, a force that can splinter your small boat and swallow you whole. You have seen other boats from your village go out and not return. You know that the sea is not your friend. It is a powerful, indifferent god, and you are a humble supplicant at its altar, begging for your daily bread. You have now reached the age of manhood. Your father is growing older, his back aching, his strength failing. The boat, the nets, and the endless, uncertain struggle will soon be yours. You have not chosen this life. You have been born into it. It is your inheritance, an inheritance of salt and poverty and the constant, intimate, and often deadly embrace of the sea. You are a fisherman, and your life's work, the real, daily, grinding misery of your trade, is about to begin. You are a fisherman, and your life is a constant, unending battle against decay. Not the dramatic decay of the body from sickness or old age, but the slow, patient, and relentless decay of your most important possession, your nets. You sit on the sun-baked, pebbly shore of your village. Before you, spread out like a great wounded beast, is your family's seine net. The sajan. It is a masterpiece of your craft, a wall of woven linen hundreds of feet long, designed to be set by your small boat and then hauled to the shore, hopefully filled with a writhing, silvery catch. It is the tool that feeds your family. It is the source of your entire, meager income, and it is actively trying to fall apart at all times. This is the terrible, secret truth at the heart of your trade. In a future you cannot imagine, nets will be made of miraculous, invisible, and almost indestructible synthetic fibers. Your nets are not. They are made of linen thread, spun from the fibers of the flax plant. Linen is strong for a plant fiber, but against the constant assault of your working life, it is hopelessly, tragically fragile. Your linen net has the structural integrity of a wet paper towel, which is a real problem when you're trying to haul in 100 pounds of angry, thrashing fish. It really tests your mending skills. The enemies of your net are legion. The first is the salt water itself, which seems to have a corrosive, hungry quality that gnaws at the fibers, weakening them with every immersion. The second is the sun, after a day's fishing. The wet net must be hauled onto the beach and spread out to dry, and the relentless Mediterranean sun beats down upon it, making the linen threads brittle. And then there is the physical violence of the work itself. The net is dragged over the rough, sandy bottom of the sea. It snags on sharp, unseen rocks that can tear a great, gaping hole in it in an instant. A particularly large and powerful fish, a tuna or a grouper, can fight and thrash and tear its way through the mesh. The result is that a significant portion of your life is not spent on the water. Fishing. It is spent here, on the land, in the tedious, painstaking, and absolutely essential act of mending. Being a fisherman is an exciting life at sea, and it's also a deeply boring life on land, where you spend about 80% of your time staring at a net and tying tiny, frustrating knots. You sit on the ground with your father and the other men of the village. This is the work of the afternoon, the work that must be done after every single fishing trip. You begin at one end of the grate, sprawling net, and you start to inspect it, section by section, your skilled eyes and fingers searching for any sign of weakness. You are looking for a frayed thread, a loose knot, a small hole that, if left unrepaired, will become a grate. Fish losing tear under the strain of the next catch, you find a hole, a small one, perhaps the size of your fist. You take up your tools. They are simple, often carved by your own hand from wood or bone. There is the netting needle, the ballone, a flat, shuttle-like tool with a fork at each end, around which is wound your supply of fresh, strong linen thread. You work with a practiced, almost unconscious efficiency. You trim the broken edges of the hole with a small, sharp knife. Then, with your needle, you begin to weave. You tie the new thread to the existing mesh, your fingers moving in a complex, repetitive dance, tying the specific, non-slip knots that your father taught you, the knots his father taught him. It is a skill that is as much a part of your inheritance as the color of your eyes. The work is mind-numbingly monotonous. You sit for hours under the sun, your back aching, your eyes focused on the tiny, intricate details of the mesh before you. The only sounds are the cry of the gulls, the crash of the waves, and the quiet, companionable talk of the other men as you all work on your own sections of the net. And the work is never ending. You might spend a full afternoon mending a single net, only to have it torn again in a new place the very next morning. It is a constant, losing battle against the forces of entropy to slow down this inevitable decay. You must also treat the nets. This is another obscure but vital part of your craft. After rinsing the net in fresh water to remove the corrosive salt, you must preserve it. You might have a great clay pot where you have boiled the bark of an oak or a pine tree. The bark releases its tannins, creating a dark, bitter liquid. You soak your nets in this tannic bath, which helps to protect the linen fibers from rot. Or you might use a more direct method, painstakingly coating the threads with a thin layer of pine pitch or tar, a smelly, sticky, and deeply unpleasant job. All of this requires resources. The linen thread for mending is not free. You must buy it from the merchants in the nearby town, and its cost is a constant drain on your meager earnings. A new net is a massive capital investment, a purchase that might require you to go into debt for years to a wealthy patron, a man who will then claim a large share of your catch until the debt is repaid. Your most important piece of fishing equipment is a giant, expensive net that begins to disintegrate the moment you put it in the water. It's a great business model. If you're the guy who sells the thread for repairs, historians and archaeologists will one day debate the true efficiency of your fishing techniques. They will look at the size of your boats, the fragility of your nets, and wonder how you could possibly have sustained yourself, let alone a great city, with your catch. They will argue about whether your life was one of constant, grinding poverty, or if the sea, in its moments of generosity, could provide a real bounty. You do not know about these debates. You only know the reality in your hands a broken thread, and the need to tie a new knot. You finish mending the last hole. The sun is beginning to set. The great net is whole again. For now, you and your father carefully fold it, ready for the morning's work. You look at the great, heavy, brown mass of woven linen. It is a fragile, fallible, and deeply frustrating tool. It is a source of endless, tedious labor, but it is also a thing of profound hope. You look at it, and you do not just see the knots and the threads. You see the possibility of a full catch, of a good day's pay, of a meal for your family. You have won today's battle against the slow, creeping, and inexorable force of rot. But you know that tomorrow, the moment your net sinks into the salt embrace of the sea, the battle will begin all over again. The work of a fisherman is never truly done. The battle against the slow, creeping decay of your nets is won. For today, you sleep a deep, exhausted, and dreamless sleep. But it is a short one. Your workday does not begin with the gentle light of dawn. It begins in the deep, cold, and absolute blackness of the night. You are awakened not by the sun, but by your father's hand on your shoulder. The fire in the hearth has died down to a few glowing embers, and the inside of your small stone hut is as dark as the world outside. The air is cold and damp, a chill that seems to cling to your bones. Every muscle in your body, still aching from yesterday's labor of mending the nets and hauling the boat, screams in protest. But you rise. The sea does not wait for a man's comfort. This is a common, historical fact of your trade. You must go out in the dark because that is when the fish are often most active, feeding in the cooler, deeper waters, and are more likely to be caught in your nets. You dress in silence, pulling on your rough, woolen tunic. You chew on a piece of hard, stale barley bread, your breakfast. You and your father step out of the hut and into the pre-dawn darkness. The village is asleep. There are no lights, no sounds of life. There is only the sound of your own footsteps on the pebbly path, the distant, rhythmic crash of the waves on the shore, and the vast, overwhelming silence of the night sky. A black velvet cloth glittering with a cold. Indifferent spray of stars. You walk down to the beach where your small boat is pulled up above the high tide line. The air here is even colder, thick with the damp. Salty smell of the sea, the boat, the oars, the coiled ropes. Everything is slick with a cold dew that numbs your fingers as you begin the work of preparing for the journey. You have a single, small, clay oil lamp. Your father lights the wick, and it sputters to life, casting a feeble, flickering, yellow light that does more to deepen the surrounding shadows than to push them back. In this small, dancing circle of light, you begin to load the boat. The nets, which you so painstakingly mended yesterday, are now a great, heavy, and damp mass. You and your father grunt with the effort as you haul them into the boat. You load the stone weights that will sink the bottom of the net, the carved wooden floats that will hold up the top, the coils of rope, the oars, and the precious, life-saving water skin when the boat is loaded. The real work begins. You must get it into the sea. You and your father take your positions, one on each side of the stern, and you begin to push the heavy wooden boat down the beach. The hull groans as it scrapes over the sand and pebbles. You push it into the surf, and the first wave of shockingly cold seawater washes over your legs and waist. A brutal, unwelcome awakening. You scramble into the boat, and you take your place at the oars, and then you begin to row, out from the relative shelter of your small cove and into the open. Black Sea. This is a unique and profound kind of terror. You are rowing into an absolute featureless void. The sea and the sky are a single, undifferentiated blackness. There is no horizon. The lights of your village have disappeared behind you. You feel as if you are rowing in a great, dark bowl, suspended between the stars above, and they're perfect. Silent reflection in the still. Black water below. How do you find your way? You have no compass, no modern instruments. Your navigation is an ancient and intricate art, a form of knowledge that lives in your senses. You navigate by the stars. You know the shape of the great constellations, the position of the North Star, and you use them to keep your bearing. You navigate by the feel of the sea itself, the direction of the long, gentle swell that tells you of the open ocean to the south. And you navigate by sound. You listen for the specific. Familiar way the waves crash against a certain headland to your east. A sound that tells you how far along the coast you are. Maritime historians will one day debate the true capabilities of fishermen like you. They will wonder if you were confined to the coastline, or if your deep ancestral knowledge of this kind of pre-modern navigation allowed you to make more ambitious journeys into the open sea. You do not know the debate. You only know the feel of the oars in your hands and the comforting, familiar shape of the stars on your right. The darkness is a canvas for your fears. Every splash you hear in the water beside the boat could be a grate. Predatory fish, a shark drawn to your passage. The dark, hulking shape of a distant, unseen island can play tricks on your eyes. The loneliness is a physical presence. Out here. You're a tiny, fragile speck of life in a vast, dark, and utterly indifferent universe. Night fishing offers a wonderfully peaceful and meditative experience. You get to sit in a small, leaky boat, in the freezing cold, surrounded by an endless black void, while contemplating all the large, toothy things that are probably swimming directly underneath you. Your acute hearing, honed by a life without engine noise, becomes your most important sense. You listen for the subtle sounds of the night sea. You can distinguish the soft splash of a school of mullet breaking the surface. A sign that your journey has not been in vain. You might even hear the deep, puffing exhalation of a dolphin, a creature you see as a good omen, a friendly spirit of the sea. After an hour or more of this hard, rhythmic rowing, you reach the fishing grounds your father has chosen for this morning. This is the place where a submerged reef causes the currents to eddy. A place known to be rich with the fish you seek, and now you must perform the difficult and dangerous work of setting the great net in the near total darkness. You must stand in the small, rocking boat, your balance precarious, and pay out the long wall of the net, ensuring the stone weights sink properly and the wooden floats do not become tangled. A single misplaced coil of rope, a single slip on the wet floorboards of the boat, could send you plunging into the cold, black, and very deep water, and in the darkness. Your father might not be able to find you. The net is set, and now you wait. You wait for the fish, and you wait for the dawn. You sit in silence in the gently rocking boat. The cold has seeped deep into your bones. Your hands are numb. Your body aches. This is the quiet, miserable heart of your profession. The cold, dark, and lonely wait. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, You see it, a faint, almost imperceptible lightening of the sky on the eastern horizon. The stars begin to fade. The blackness of the world resolves itself into shades of deep blue and gray. The dawn is coming. You have survived the worst of the darkness. The fears of the night begin to recede with the coming of the light. But you know, with the deep, weary knowledge of a fisherman, that the light brings its own dangers. The sun will rise, and with it, the wind will often awaken. The calm, glassy sea of the pre-dawn can, in a matter of hours, become a rough, choppy, and dangerous place. You're cold. Dark start to the day is over, but the next phase of your perilous work, the war against the wind and the waves, is about to begin. About the dawn breaks, a welcome and beautiful thing after the long, dark hours on the water. The first rays of the sun paint the eastern sky in shades of pink and orange. And the sea, in the calm air of the early morning, is a gentle, shimmering plain of blue and silver. You have survived the night. Now the real work of the day begins. It is time to haul the nets. You and your father take your positions. You begin the long, slow, back-breaking work of pulling the great seine net from the sea. You pull hand over hand. The wet, salt-encrusted linen rope coarse and abrasive against your palms. The net is heavy, a dead, sodden weight. But as you pull, you begin to feel a new kind of weight, a new resistance. There are intermittent, struggling jerks on the line. It is the feeling of fish, trapped and fighting in the mesh. A cautious, hopeful excitement begins to build in your chest. The net feels heavy. It feels full. This could be a good catch. A catch that will feed your family for a week and leave plenty to sell at the market. It could be a day that makes all the misery of this life worthwhile. And then your father, his eyes constantly scanning the horizon, stiffens. The wind is changing, he says. His voice low and urgent. You stop pulling, and you look. On the far western horizon, a line of dark, bruised-looking clouds has appeared, as if from nowhere. The gentle morning breeze has died away, and the air has become still, heavy, and expectant. The surface of the sea, which was a moment ago a gentle swell, has taken on a strange, oily, and unsettled look. The local weather forecast is provided by your father's trick knee and the behavior of the seagulls. Today, his knee is aching and the seagulls look nervous, which translates to a 100% chance of a terrifying, life-threatening squall. You know these signs. You have been taught to read them since you were a child. Storm is coming, a sudden Mediterranean squall, and it is coming fast. The net, your father shouts, his voice sharp with command. Haul the net now. The slow, methodical rhythm of your work explodes into a frantic, desperate race against the weather. You and your father pull on the ropes with all your strength, your muscles straining, your feet braced against the thwarts of the rocking boat. The net is so heavy, so full of fish and the dead weight of the water, that it feels as if you are trying to pull the very floor of the ocean up to the surface. But the storm is faster. The dark line of clouds on the horizon swells and races towards you. A great black wall of wind and rain. The first gust of wind hits your small boat like a physical blow. A solid, invisible fist that makes the mast creak and the entire vessel shudder. The sea is no longer calm. It is whipped into a frenzy of steep, angry, white-capped waves. The world is transformed from a place of calm beauty into a chaotic, roaring hell in a matter of minutes. A cold, driving rain begins to fall, so thick and so dense that it blurs the world into a single, gray, disorienting haze. The coastline, your only point of reference, your only hope of safety, disappears. Your small, open boat, which felt so sturdy and safe in the calm morning, is now a fragile, helpless toy at the mercy of the waves. It is thrown into the air on the crest of a wave. And then it plunges, with a sickening, stomach-lurching drop into the deep trough. The walls of gray water towering on either side. A great, crashing wave breaks over the side of the boat, filling it with a torrent of cold. Churning seawater. "Bail!" your father screams, his voice almost lost in the howl of the wind. You abandon the nets and grab the wooden bucket. You begin the desperate and probably futile work of bailing. You scoop and throw. Scoop and throw. Your movements a frantic, panicked rhythm. But for every bucket of water you throw out, another wave seems to break over the side, bringing two more in. Your father is at the stern, fighting with the great steering oar, his entire body straining to keep the bow of the boat pointed into the oncoming waves. You know that if a wave catches you broadside, it will roll your small boat over in an instant, and you will be thrown into the cold, raging sea. And then you realize the terrible, central problem: the net. The net that a few minutes ago was a symbol of your hope is now a deadly anchor, a source of your doom. It is still in the water, and its immense weight, filled with the struggling fish and the tons of water, is pulling the stern of your boat down, making it sluggish, unresponsive, and dangerously low in the water. Your father makes a terrible, necessary choice. He screams at you, his face a mask of desperation in the driving rain. Cut it. Cut the net. This is the ultimate defeat for a fisherman. To cut away your net is to cut away your livelihood, your entire family's fortune, the product of countless hours of patient mending. But your life is worth more than the net. You crawl to the stern of the violently pitching boat. You take your knife. You find the thick, main ropes of the net where they are tied to the boat, and you begin to saw at them. The wet rope is tough, and your hands are cold and numb. Finally, with a last desperate cut, the rope parts. The great, heavy weight of the net is released. The boat lurches upwards, suddenly lighter. More buoyant? You watch as your net, and the magnificent silver catch within it, your entire day's profit, your food for the week, sinks and disappears forever into the gray, churning depths. You have been faced with a difficult business decision. Do you keep your valuable catch and sink? Or do you throw it all overboard and only have to deal with crippling poverty? It's a tough call. The boat is more responsive now, but you are still in mortal danger. You are in the heart of the squall, a tiny, lost vessel in a world of violent wind and water. You are soaked to the bone, and a deep, penetrating cold has settled into your body. The fear is a physical thing, a tight, cold knot in your stomach. You have heard the stories your entire life of boats from your village that have gone out and have simply vanished, swallowed by a sudden storm just like this one. Historians will one day debate the social and religious life of your community, and they will note that the unpredictable, constant threat of death at sea fostered a culture of deep fatalism and an equally deep superstition. You are in the hands of the sea gods now, of Poseidon or whichever local deity rules these waters. Your survival is no longer a matter of your own skill, but of their capricious, divine will. You return to your bailing, your movements a desperate prayer. And then, as quickly as it began, the storm passes. The wind lessens its furious howl, dropping to a strong but manageable gale. The rain eases and then stops. The dark, angry clouds seem to part, and a weak, watery sunlight breaks through. You are left in a heaving, gray, and empty sea. Your boat is half full of water. Your nets are gone. Your catch is gone. You are exhausted. You are freezing cold, and you are lost. The coastline is still completely obscured by a thick bank of mist. You have survived the sea's sudden, violent rage, but you have paid a terrible price. You have nothing. All that hard, cold, pre-dawn labor, all that patient mending of the nets, it has all been for nothing. You have gambled with the sea, and you have lost. You are left with nothing but your own life, your own aching body, and the grim, uncertain task of trying to find your way back to shore, with nothing to show for your ordeal but a new, more intimate, and more terrified respect for the terrible. Killing power of the calm sea, you have survived the storm. The rage of the sea has passed, leaving you adrift in its vast, gray, and unsettling calm. You have lost your net and your catch, but you have kept your life. A grim transaction that you know was the only one to be made, after a long, terrifying day of rowing with a broken oar and navigating by the faint outline of the distant mountains. You finally guide your waterlogged boat back into the safety of your home cove. You are exhausted, you are freezing cold, and you have returned with nothing. Your family will eat a thin porridge tonight. The next few days are a blur of land-based labor. You and your father must work feverishly to repair your spare net. An older, more heavily patched one, stitching its frayed threads. Preparing it for the sea, there is no rest. A day not spent fishing is a day your family goes hungry. Finally, the spare net is ready. The sea is calm. A new day has dawned. And with it, the fisherman's most essential and most irrational tool hope. You and your father set out again in the pre-dawn darkness, your hearts filled with a cautious optimism. Today, you pray, will be a good day. You reach your chosen fishing ground, a place where a deep channel runs close to a submerged reef. A place known to be frequented by the schools of red mullet that are so prized in the city market. You set the great seine net with a practiced skill, its stone weights pulling one side to the seabed, its cork floats bobbing on the surface, and then you wait, rowing the boat in a great, slow semicircle to enclose a section of the sea. After an hour, the time has come. The great haul begins. This is the moment of truth, the pivot upon which your entire life of labor turns. You and your father take your positions at the stern of the boat, and you each take a thick, salt-encrusted rope in your hands, and you begin to pull. The work is a form of torture. The wet, heavy linen rope is brutally abrasive, and even your calloused hands are soon raw and stinging. You are pulling against the dead weight of the 1,000-foot-long net, against the resistance of the water, and, you hope, against the struggling weight of hundreds of fish. Your back and shoulders quickly begin to burn with a deep, searing pain. You pull in a steady, rhythmic, monotonous motion. Hand over hand, your body becomes a simple machine, a lever in this great struggle with the sea. You work in silence, save for the occasional grunt of effort, the creaking of the boat's timbers, and the sloshing of the water. As you pull, you are constantly reading the ropes, your senses attuned to the subtle language of the unseen world beneath you, and you begin to feel it, a series of sharp, intermittent jerks, a new, living heaviness on the line. It is the feeling of fish, of a great number of fish, struggling in the mesh. The hope in your heart, once cautious, now begins to burn brightly. It's heavy, you say to your father. Your voice a ragged gasp of effort and excitement. He nods, a rare, thin smile on his lips. A good weight, he says. The gods are with us today. The labor intensifies. Your muscles are screaming in protest, but you are now fueled by a new energy, the powerful adrenaline of imminent success. This is the catch you have been praying for. This is the catch that will pay your debts. This is the catch that will mean meat on your family's table. Not just the bones and the heads. The process is agonizingly slow. It takes more than an hour of this continuous, back-breaking labor to haul the great net towards the boat. Finally, you see it. The first of the cork floats, and then the dark, shadowy shape of the net itself, rising from the depths. And you see the flash of silver within it, the end of the net, the cod end. The great bag where the catch is concentrated is brought to the surface. You and your father lean over the side of the boat, your hearts pounding with anticipation, and you lift the final, heavy section from the water. And the hope dies. It dies a sudden, violent, and sickening death. The net is heavy. Yes, but it is not heavy with the thrashing. Silver bodies of 1,000 red mullet. It is heavy with a single, massive, and utterly worthless tangle of slimy, brown kelp, torn from the seabed by your net, trapped within the grate. Stinking mass of seaweed are a few, small, worthless crabs, their claws clicking in angry protest, and a single, sad, bony, and entirely inedible scorpion fish. That is all. You have just spent 2 hours hauling in a net that weighs 1,000 pounds. You're full of hope. It turns out the net is 99% seaweed and 1% profound disappointment. It's a great catch. If you're a sea cow, you and your father stare at the pathetic result of your immense labor in a state of stunned, hollowed-out silence. The physical exhaustion is now joined by a crushing, leaden wave of despair. All that work, all that hope, for nothing. This is the most common and most soul-destroying misery of your profession. It is the agony of the heavy, empty net in your superstitious world. A failure this complete is not just bad luck. It is a bad omen. It is a sign of the gods' displeasure. You begin a frantic, internal search for the cause? Did you fail to make the proper offering to Poseidon this morning? Did you mend the net with an unlucky knot? Was there a flaw in your own heart? A moment of pride or greed that the gods have now punished? The failure is not just economic. It is a spiritual crisis. Layering a new kind of dread on top of your despair, there is nothing to be done. You must now perform the deeply unsatisfying labor of cleaning the net, of untangling the great, slimy mass of kelp and throwing it back into the sea, of freeing the angry crabs. It is the work of a failure. You row back to your village as the sun begins to set. You have no triumphant catch to show for your day. You have no fish to take to the market tomorrow. You have nothing. You must now go home and face your family with empty hands. The great thing about a failed catch is that you don't just lose a day's pay. You also get to go home and explain to your hungry children that dinner tonight will be a delicious bowl of maybe tomorrow. This is the great, central gamble of your life. A farmer, when he plants his field, can see his crop grow. He can estimate his harvest. But you, a fisherman, you are working blind. You are casting your hopes, your labor, and your family's survival into an unseen, unpredictable world. And you never know if you will pull up a fortune or a heartbreaking emptiness. Historians will one day debate the economic realities of your life. Whether you were a man in a state of perpetual poverty or a small, independent businessman. But they cannot quantify the psychological toll of this constant, grinding uncertainty. They cannot measure the weight of the despair of a day of hard, honest, and completely fruitless labor. You pull your boat up onto the beach. The sun is setting. The day is over. You have caught nothing. You are exhausted, and you know that tomorrow. You must rise in the darkness. You must row out onto the same, indifferent sea, and you must cast your net again, with no more guarantee of success than you had today. This is the true, terrible, and unending agony of your life as a fisherman. You have known the agony of the empty net, the profound, soul-crushing despair of a day of hard labor that yields nothing. It is a familiar, grinding misery, the baseline of your existence. But there are other days. There are the days when the gods of the sea smile upon you, when your luck turns, and your net comes up not with seaweed and disappointment, but with a great thrashing, silver bounty. And you learn, in these moments of triumph, a new and more frantic kind of misery. You learn that a full net is the start of a desperate race against the sun. The day begins like any other. You have rowed out into the pre-dawn darkness. You have set your net. And you have begun the long, back-breaking haul. But today, the ropes feel different. They are alive with the heavy, struggling and unmistakable weight of a massive catch. A surge of pure primal joy and adrenaline floods your body, washing away the aches in your back and the rawness of your hands. This is the day. This is the catch you have been dreaming of. With a final heroic effort, you and your father haul the great, bulging cod end of the net to the side of the boat. It is a beautiful, chaotic sight. Hundreds of fish sea bream, mullet, mackerel are thrashing in the mesh, their silver scales flashing in the newly risen sun. Their bodies a single, writhing, living mass. You have done it. You are rich. For a day, you and your father let out a great whoop of triumph. And then, a new, urgent reality sets in. The joy of the catch is instantly replaced by the anxiety of the clock. Your boat is now a vessel of death, and every single one of these beautiful, valuable fish has begun the inexorable process of decay. This is the central, terrible truth of your profession in a world without ice and without refrigeration. Your greatest enemy is no longer the emptiness of the sea, but the heat of the sun. The same sun that you prayed for to grant you a calm sea for your work is now a merciless, golden tyrant. Its rays working to turn your precious, silver treasure into a pile of soft, stinking and worthless rot. You are now in a high-stakes race against time. Row, your father barks, his voice sharp with urgency. Row as if the demons of the underworld are chasing us. The leisurely, rhythmic pace of your journey out is a distant memory. Now, you row with a frantic, desperate power. Your boat, now laden with hundreds of pounds of fish, sits low in the water. It is heavy, sluggish, and incredibly difficult to move. You pull on the great wooden oars, your back and shoulder muscles screaming in protest. Your breath comes in ragged, tearing gasps. Sweat pours down your face, stinging your eyes, but you do not slow down. With every stroke, you're buying a few more precious minutes for your catch. As you row, you try to protect your cargo. You throw a piece of old, damp canvas over the great pile of fish to shield them from the direct baking rays of the sun. You might scoop up buckets of seawater and douse them. The coolness, a temporary reprieve. But these are meager, almost pathetic. Defenses against the inevitable. And as you row, you can begin to smell it. The first, faint, but unmistakable odor of fish beginning to turn. It is a smell that fills you with a deep, economic dread. Every minute you are on the water, the quality of your catch is degrading, and its value in the market is ticking downwards. Sometimes, on a longer journey back from a more distant fishing ground, the process of preservation must begin at sea. You might be forced to start the gutting and cleaning right there, in the rocking, unstable boat. It is a messy, difficult, and unpleasant job, but it is a vital first step in the war against decay. Historians and economists will one day debate the nature of the fish market in your world. They will argue that the extreme perishability of fresh fish meant that it could only ever be a luxury for people living in coastal cities. The great bulk of the fish trade, they will contend, was in preserved products fish that was salted, dried, or fermented into the pungent, ubiquitous fish sauce known as garum. Your desperate, frantic race to the shore is a testament to the high-risk, high-reward niche you occupy in this ancient economy. The journey back to your village takes hours. Every minute an eternity of straining muscles and rising anxiety. Finally, you see it. The familiar, comforting sight of your small cove. The whitewashed huts of your village. You row with a final, desperate burst of energy, and the keel of your boat grinds onto the sand of the beach. You have won the race. You have made it back in time. Your catch is still fresh, their eyes clear, their gills a healthy, vibrant red. But your work is not over. It has just entered its next, equally urgent and far more messy phase. You have brought the fish to the shore. Now you must prepare them for the market. And so begins the smelly, slimy, and deeply unpleasant work of the gutting table. You have won your desperate race against the sun. You have hauled your small boat onto the beach, its hull heavy with the weight of your magnificent silver catch. The relief and triumph of a successful day's fishing fills your heart. You allow yourself a single, brief moment of satisfaction. You have done the hard part. You are wrong. The hard part was the clean part. Now begins the dirty work. Now begins the stench of the gutting table. Your work does not stop at the water's edge. The catch, while fresh, is not yet a commodity. It must be processed, and it must be processed quickly. The same sun that was your enemy at sea is still your enemy on the land. You and your father tip the boat on its side, and the great, writhing, flapping pile of fish spills out onto the wet sand of the beach. It is a beautiful sight, a fortune in silver scales and fresh meat, and you must now plunge your hands into it. Your wife and your older children come down from your small hut to help. This is not just your work, it is a family enterprise. A great, rough-hewn wooden table, its surface stained dark and scarred by 1,000 knife cuts, is dragged to the water's edge. This is your altar of disassembly. The work begins with sorting. You and your family kneel on the sand, your hands moving with a practiced speed. You sort the fish by type and by size, the large, fat sea bream, and the prized red mullet. These are for the market in the city. They will fetch a good price. The smaller, bonier fish, the ones that were slightly damaged in the net. The less desirable species, these are set aside. This will be your own family's food for the coming week, once the sorting is done. The true, messy work begins. You take your position at the gutting table. You take up your knife, a simple short-bladed tool with a handle of worn wood, and for the next several hours, your world becomes a repeating cycle of slime, and scales, and blood. You take the first fish from the pile. It is a large, beautiful sea bream, its scales shimmering with an iridescent pink and silver. The first step is to scale it. You hold the fish firmly by its tail, and with the back of your knife, you scrape. From tail to head, the scales fly, a shower of tiny, translucent, and incredibly sticky discs. They stick to your hands, to your arms, to your face. Within minutes, you are covered in a fine, shimmering armor of fish scales. Next, you must gut it. This is a common, historical fact of your profession, a necessary and universal act. The internal organs are the first part of the fish to decay, and they must be removed to preserve the flesh. You lay the fish on the table with a single expert slice. You open its soft, white belly from vent to gills. You then reach into the warm, open cavity with your bare hands, and you pull. The tangle of internal organs comes free with a soft, wet, tearing sound. It is a slippery, coiled mass of intestine, of the dark, purple liver, of the strange, balloon-like swim bladder. It is a profoundly intimate and unpleasant act. You have reached inside the creature and removed its life. You throw the guts onto the ground, beside the table. A pile of this steaming offal begins to grow, and with it comes the smell. It is a smell that is unique to your profession, a smell that will become the permanent perfume of your life. It is not the clean, salty smell of the sea. It is the deep, pungent, and deeply unpleasant smell of fish guts, a smell of blood and half-digested seaweed and the primal, organic funk of animal biology, and the smell is an invitation. The gulls, which were circling lazily overhead, now descend, their cries becoming sharp and greedy. They land near the gut pile, a squabbling, audacious mob, darting in to steal a piece of intestine. The village dogs arrive, and the ever-present half-wild cats. Your workspace is now surrounded by a noisy, hungry audience of scavengers, and the flies a black. Buzzing cloud of them descends upon the gut pile, a living, crawling carpet of filth. You continue your work, your movement's now automatic. Take a fish, scrape the scales, slit the belly, pull out the guts, toss the guts on the pile, take the hollowed out fish and rinse it in a bucket of seawater. Place the clean fish in a woven basket and repeat. You do this 100 times, 1,000 times. Your hands, already calloused from the ropes, are now an even greater mess. They are covered in tiny cuts from the sharp edges of the fins and the gill plates. These small cuts are constantly being bathed in a mixture of salt water, fish blood, and the bacteria-rich slime from the guts. Infections are a constant and painful part of your life. As you work, you might be participating in another, even smellier. Part of the ancient economy, your village might have a communal pit for the making of garum, the famous and ubiquitous fermented fish sauce of your world. This is the ultimate, obscure secret of your trade's stench. The pile of guts, heads, and any small, otherwise useless fish are not just waste, they are a precious resource. They are taken and thrown into a great, stone-lined pit, layered with immense quantities of salt, and then left in the hot sun for months to ferment and putrefy. The foul brown liquid that leaches out is the garum, a condiment so prized that it is traded all across the known world. The stench that rises from a garum pit is a legendary and overpowering force. A smell of pure, concentrated, and weaponized rot. A smell that can make a grown man weep. But today, you are just focused on the fresh fish. The sun is climbing higher. The heat is growing more intense. The race against spoilage that began at sea has not ended. It continues here. On the shore, finally, the last fish is gutted and cleaned. The marketable fish are now packed neatly in large wicker baskets, their bodies cool and clean. The much larger, much smellier pile of heads, bones, and guts is left for the gulls and the flies. A walk through the shambles is a great way to lose your appetite for a week. Your own workplace is the seafood equivalent. You stand up and stretch. Your back a single. Solid ache from hours of being hunched over the table. You are exhausted, and you stink. The smell of fish is in your hair, in your clothes, ground deep into the skin of your hands. It is a smell you can never truly wash away. It is the scent of your profession, the brand of your low social status. You've developed a very distinctive personal scent. It's a bold, all-natural fragrance with strong notes of fish, salt, and entrails. It's called Ode to Fisherman, and it ensures you'll never have to worry about anyone standing too close to you. The sun is past its zenith. The day is waning, but your work is not over. You have a basket of fresh, valuable, and highly perishable goods. You have won the battle against the sea, and you have won the battle against decay. For now. But your final, and perhaps most frustrating, challenge still lies ahead. You must now take your hard-won catch to the city market, and you must haggle for a fair price with the wealthy, powerful, and clean-smelling merchants who control the trade. The work of the gutting table is done. The sun is beginning its descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. But your day is far from over. The frantic race against the sun, against the force of decay, has merely entered its next stage. You have a basket full of beautiful, fresh, and highly perishable fish, and now you must sell them. You load the heavy wicker baskets onto a simple yoke that you balance across your shoulders. Your wife will stay behind to clean the tools and to guard your small, personal share of the catch. You, as the man of the house, must now undertake the long, tiring walk to the market in the nearby town. The journey itself is an ordeal. You walk for an hour, maybe two, along the dusty coastal track. The baskets are heavy, digging into your shoulders, and you are walking as fast as you can. Every minute that passes, your product is losing its freshness, its value. You arrive at the great city, a place of stone buildings and crowded streets. You are a man of the sea, and this world of the land, of the city, always feels alien and hostile to you. And you know, from long and bitter experience, that it is. You make your way to the fish market, a specific section of the city's great agora. The smell hits you from a street away. It is an overpowering, eye-watering stench of fish in all its various states: the clean, salty smell of the very freshest catch, the stronger smell of fish that has been sitting out for a day, the pungent, ammoniac reek of shark meat, and the deep, funky, almost cheesy smell of the great vats of fermenting garum. The fish sauce that is the lifeblood of the local cuisine. The market is a chaotic, noisy, and wet place. The ground is slick with fish slime and water. The air is filled with the loud, barking shouts of the vendors, the haggling of the customers, and the buzzing of a thick black cloud of flies that hangs over the entire scene. You are not one of the vendors in the stalls. You are a primary producer. You are at the very bottom of the economic food chain. Your customers are the professional fishmongers, the ichthyopals. They are the middlemen, the men who own the stalls, who have the connections to the wealthy households and the city's chefs, and they are not your friends. You approach the stall of the man you usually deal with, a portly, prosperous-looking man named Lycanus. He sits on a high stool, surveying his domain. His face a mask of bored indifference. He is clean. His tunic is made of fine, dyed wool. You, in contrast, are filthy. Your clothes are stiff with dried salt and stained with fish blood and guts. You stink. The smell of your trade, the very smell of your hard labor, is a mark of your low social status. He is a respected city merchant. You are a poor, smelly fisherman from the coast. The power dynamic is established before a single word is spoken. He sees you approach, and his expression does not change. He does not greet you as an equal. He simply gestures with his chin towards your baskets. "What have you brought me today?" "Fisherman," he asks, his voice laden with a weary condescension, with an aching back. You lower the heavy baskets from your shoulders and place them on the ground before him. You open them, displaying your catch. The fish are beautiful. They are fresh, their eyes clear, their bodies firm. It is a catch to be proud of. Lycanus lumbers down from his stool. He pokes one of the larger fish with a thick finger. Testing its firmness, he lifts its gill flap, inspecting the bright red color within, a sign of freshness. He sniffs it. He makes a non-committal grunt. He is a master of this game. He will never show enthusiasm. He will never show that you have brought him a truly magnificent product. They are not as fresh as yesterday's. He lies, his face a mask of disappointment. And they are small. The ladies of the great houses, they prefer the larger sea bream. You know he is lying. You know this is a magnificent catch. But Master Lycanus, you plead, your voice full of a humility that galls you. They were pulled from the sea this very morning. There are none fresher in the entire market. He shrugs, as if your desperation is a matter of profound indifference to him. The market is flooded with mullet today. The price is low. I can offer you 20 obols for the lot. The offer is a physical blow. It is an insult. It is less than half of what the catch is worth. You know that he will turn around and sell these very same fish for 10 times that amount to the steward of a wealthy senator's household. 20 obols, you exclaim. But it is a full day's work. The net was torn. It is a catch worthy of a drachma. Then take your fish to another stall, he says with a dismissive wave of his hand. And he begins to turn away, and you are trapped. This is the terrible, Unspoken law of your trade, your product is dying. It is losing its value with every passing minute. You cannot afford to walk away if you argue for too long, if you take your baskets and try to find another buyer. The fish will begin to turn. The other fishmongers, who are all part of the same close-knit guild, will see that you have been refused by Lycinus, and they will offer you even less. You have no bargaining power. Your desperation is a commodity that he is trading in as surely as the fish themselves. Your negotiation strategy is simple. You ask for a fair price. The merchant laughs. He offers you a terrible price. You remember that your fish will rot in about 3 hours. You accept the terrible price. You swallow your pride, you swallow your anger. 25. You counter, your voice weak. He considers for a moment, stroking his beard. 22, he says. And that is my final offer. You have no choice. You accept. The deal is made. His assistants take your beautiful fish and lay them out on his marble slab. A prime display for the wealthy customers who are now beginning to arrive at the market. Lycinus counts out the small, bronze and silver coins into your hand. They feel small and insignificant. A pitiful return for the danger, the labor, and the hope of your long day after a week of backbreaking, death-defying labor. You have earned enough money to buy a sack of barley and to be slightly in debt. You're not just a fisherman, you're a master of high finance. This is the economic reality that historians will one day try to reconstruct from the few surviving records. They will debate the nature of the ancient market, whether it was governed by a simple supply and demand, or by powerful guilds and middlemen who controlled the trade. You are living the answer. The power is with the man who is not desperate, the man whose product is not rotting before his very eyes. You take your few, hard-won coins before you can even leave the market. You must pay the fish tax, a small portion of your earnings that is due to the city for the right to sell your goods here. After the tax, the amount left in your hand is even smaller. You will use this money to buy the things your family cannot produce: a bag of barley, a small flask of olive oil, and, most importantly, more linen thread to repair the nets that were torn in today's catch. The cycle continues. You put the coins in your small leather pouch. You pick up your now empty, lightweight baskets, and you begin the long, dark walk home. You are exhausted, your body aches, and your spirit is heavy with the familiar, bitter taste of injustice. You look up at the sky, at the first stars beginning to appear, and you wonder why the great god Poseidon would bless you with a full net, only to allow a fat, clean-smelling man of the city to steal the profit from you. You begin to understand that the gods of the sea are not the only ones you must appease. There are also the powerful, and far more cruel, gods of the marketplace. You return from the market, your journey home made in the deepening twilight. Your shoulders ache from the morning's haul and the long walk. Your spirit is heavy with the familiar, bitter humiliation of the day's transaction. You have a few hard-won coins in your pouch, and your baskets are empty. You have done the work of men. You have wrestled with the sea, and you have battled with the cruel logic of the marketplace, but your day and your anxieties are not over. Now you must face the unseen world. You must reckon with the gods. Your life as a fisherman is a life lived on the very edge of human control. A farmer can see his field. He can feel the soil. He can watch his crop grow. But your field is a vast, opaque, and mysterious wilderness. The fish may be there one day and gone the next, for reasons you can never truly know. The weather can turn from a calm paradise to a raging hell in the space of an hour. You are a man whose entire existence is a gamble, a constant wager against the immense and unpredictable power of the sea, and in a world governed by such profound uncertainty. You cling to the one thing that gives it a semblance of order and meaning: your belief in the gods. You know, with an absolute certainty, that the sea is not just water, it is the domain of a great, powerful, and deeply capricious god. He might be the Greek Poseidon, the earth shaker, or the Roman Neptune. His mood dictates your fate. The waves are the expression of his anger. The calm is the sign of his contentment. And the fish are a gift he may choose to give or to withhold. Your survival, therefore, depends not just on your skill with a net and an oar, but on your ability to appease this moody, invisible, and all-powerful landlord. And so your life is governed by a constant, complex, and deeply personal set of rituals and superstitions. Before you ever set foot in your boat in the pre-dawn darkness, you must make an offering. It is not a grand temple sacrifice, it is a small, humble, and vital act of piety. You take a small barley cake, baked by your wife, and a small cup of your best wine if you have any, and you walk to the water's edge. You crumble the cake into the surf and pour the wine onto the sand, whispering a prayer to the god, asking for his protection, for a calm sea, and for a full net. To fail to do this, to set out without acknowledging the god's power, would be an act of profound and foolish arrogance, an open invitation to disaster after a successful catch. Another ritual is required. You must show your gratitude. The first and finest fish from the net is never sold. It is the god's share. You take it to a small, flat rock altar on the beach, and you burn it. The smell of the roasting fish, a pleasing aroma carried on the sea breeze to the nostrils of the unseen deity. To keep the best fish for yourself would be an act of greed, a sign that you have forgotten who truly provided the bounty. And the god, has a long memory. Your world is a text, and you are constantly trying to read its hidden, supernatural language. You look for omens everywhere. The flight of the seabirds is a message. A flock of gulls flying purposefully out to sea is a good omen, a sign they know where the fish are feeding. A flock of gulls flying inland, their cries sharp and panicked, is a dire warning of a coming storm. This morning a seagull looked at you funny. You've decided this is a terrible omen and are now considering just staying home. You can't be too careful when it comes to seagull-based divination. A dolphin, a creature you see as intelligent and magical. Leaping in the bow wave of your boat is a sign of the god's great favor, a promise of a safe and prosperous journey. But a strange, out-of-place bird, or a fish you have never seen before, can be a sign of bad luck, a warning to be cautious. Even the words you speak are governed by superstition. This is an obscure but vital part of your world. There are certain words you must never say while you are at sea. You do not speak the name of the wolf, for fear of attracting its land-based ferocity to your boat. You do not speak the word drown, for to name the thing you fear most is to give it power. It is a world of linguistic taboos and careful euphemisms, a constant, verbal negotiation with the forces of fate. Historians and anthropologists will one day debate the relationship between this magical thinking and your practical, hard-won knowledge of the sea. They will ask if your ability to predict the weather was a true, scientific observation of cloud formations and wind patterns, or if it was simply the interpretation of divine omens. The truth is that for you, these two things are not separate. You see the dark clouds gathering in the west, and you know, from practical experience, that a storm is coming. But you understand this practical fact through a religious framework. The god is angry, and the clouds are the scowl on his face. Your knowledge and your faith are two sides of the same coin, and they both tell you the same thing: it is time to row for shore. Let us say you have had a run of bad luck for a week. Your nets have come up empty, your family is hungry, your spirit is low. This is not just a run of poor fishing. This is a clear sign that you have somehow offended the god. You're small. Daily offerings are not enough. A greater act of appeasement is required. You must make a more significant sacrifice. You take one of your family's precious chickens, a valuable source of eggs. You carry it to the beach. You perform the sacrifice. slitting its throat and allowing its blood, its life force, to run into the sand at the water's edge. You burn its body on the altar, a greater and more pleasing aroma for the angry god. You and your father spend the day mending the nets with a renewed, prayerful focus. The next morning, as you set out, you see a great sea eagle, a bird you see as a messenger of the king of the gods. Circling high above your boat, your heart soars. It is a good omen. The gods have accepted your sacrifice. And that day, you pull in the greatest catch of your entire season. Your nets are full, your boat is heavy with fish, and the system is reinforced. Your faith is rewarded. You have correctly interpreted the signs, you have performed the correct ritual, and the gods have answered your prayer. You do not see this as a coincidence. You see it as proof of the fundamental, transactional nature of your relationship with the divine. You return to your village that evening, your boat laden with fish. You are a successful man, but you know that your success is not just a product of your own hard work and skill. It is a gift, a temporary truce in your long and ongoing negotiation with the powerful. Capricious and ever-watchful gods of the sea. You know that to keep their favor. You must remain humble. You must remain vigilant, and you must always, always remember to give them their share. Your life is a constant, exhausting, and deeply religious conversation with the great, watery wilderness that is your home. The day is done. You have returned from the city market, your body aching from the long walk, your spirit bruised by the familiar humiliation of the transaction. You have a few small coins in your pouch, enough to buy the barley and oil your family needs to survive. And in a small wicker basket, you carry your own share of the day's great catch. You have done the work. You have faced the dangers. You have paid your dues to the gods in the market. Now, at the end of it all, it is time to eat. Your wife takes the basket from you. She does not need to look inside to know what it contains. It is always the same. It is not the large, fleshy, and valuable sea bream or the prized red mullet. Those are for the fine tables of the wealthy citizens in the town, the men who can afford to pay for the best. Your share, the fisherman's share, is the leftovers. It is the fish that are too small, too bony, or too damaged in the net to be sold for a good price. This is the final, quiet misery of your profession. You spend your life in pursuit of the ocean's greatest treasures, and your own reward is always the scraps. She takes the small, bony fish and prepares them in the simplest way possible. She guts the few that need it, though most are too small to bother with. She sprinkles them with a little salt, and she lays them on a hot clay griddle over the embers of your hearth fire. The smell of the cooking fish, a scent that has clung to you all day, now fills your small home. But it is not the rich, savory aroma of a great feast. It is the thin, simple smell of survival, you and your family, your wife, your children, your old father whose hands are now too gnarled with age to mend a net gather on the floor around the low wooden table. The meal is served. It is a small pile of the grilled fish, a piece of hard barley bread for each of you, and a bowl of olives. You take your first fish, and you begin the painstaking, familiar work of eating it. The flesh is sweet and flaky, but there is so little of it. It is a delicate and frustrating operation, to use your fingers and your teeth to separate the tiny slivers of meat from the intricate, almost transparent web of needle-like bones. You eat slowly, carefully. Every mouthful is a small victory, and as you eat this humble, difficult meal, you reflect on the immense journey that has brought it to your table. You think of the endless, tedious hours you spent on the shore, your back aching, your fingers raw, mending the great, fragile net that caught this very fish. You think of the cold, dark, and terrifying journey out to sea in the pre-dawn blackness, rowing into a void of unseen dangers. You think of the ever-present fear of the sudden storm, the squall that can turn the calm sea into a killing field in a matter of minutes. You think of the other days, The days of despair, the days you spent hours in the hot sun, your muscles burning with the strain of hauling the great, heavy net, only to find it filled with nothing but seaweed and a profound, echoing emptiness. You think of the frantic, desperate race against the sun on the good days, rowing until your heart feels as if it will burst, trying to get your catch to shore before it begins to rot. You remember the stench and the slime of the gutting table, the grim work of turning a living creature into a commodity. You remember the humiliation of the market, the sneer on the face of the fat, clean fishmonger as he offered you a pittance for the product of your life-threatening labor. And you remember the constant, gnawing anxiety of your relationship with the unseen world, the endless cycle of prayers and offerings and the fearful reading of omens required to appease the capricious, powerful gods of the sea. Odds. All of it. All of that danger, all of that labor, all of that fear and humiliation and hope culminates right here, in this small, smoky room, in this meager meal of tiny, bony fish that no one else was willing to buy. This is the final, distilled truth of your life. Your world is one of profound and inescapable irony. You live your life on the water, but you fear it more than anything. You are surrounded by the sea's immense bounty, but you are often hungry. You provide a luxury for the tables of the rich, and you yourself live on their leftovers. You are a master of a difficult and complex craft, a man whose knowledge of the winds and the tides is deep and profound. Yet you are despised by the very city dwellers who depend on your labor. Historians will one day debate your role in the ancient economy. They will try to calculate your contribution to the city's food supply, but they will never be able to calculate the human cost, the weight of the fear, the exhaustion, and the quiet. Daily despair, you finish your meal. Your children have carefully picked their own fish clean. Your wife gathers a small pile of bones and heads. They are not thrown away. Nothing is ever wasted. They will be boiled tomorrow with a handful of wild herbs to create a thin, weak, but nourishing broth. Every last drop of flavor and sustenance must be extracted. The day is done. You are exhausted, but you know that you have survived another day. You have fed your family. You have earned a few more coins to keep the cycle going, and you know that in a few short hours, while the city sleeps, you will rise again in the darkness. You will walk down to the shore. You will push your small boat out into the great, dark and indifferent sea, and you will do it all over again. The fisherman's long, hard day comes to a close. Let the image of his small, smoky hut, the taste of the salty, bony fish, and the sound of the distant eternal sea begin to fade. His story, a story of relentless labor and profound precariousness, is over. Let it recede into the quiet, gentle darkness of the past. Bring your awareness back to the here and now, to the comfort and the stillness of your own room. Feel the softness of your own bed, a luxury the man in our story could not have imagined. Feel the sense of security, the knowledge that your own sustenance does not depend on a desperate, daily gamble with a dangerous sea. The stories of the past, of the immense, unseen labor that has gone into the simple act of providing a meal, can serve to deepen our own sense of gratitude. The peace you now feel, the rest you are about to enjoy, are their own kinds of treasures, more precious than any great catch. Your own day, with all its own challenges, is now complete. There are no more nets to be mended, no more storms to be feared. Your only task is to let go. Let go of the story. Let go of the day. Let your body grow heavy and your mind grow still, and allow the gentle, quiet tide of the night to carry you out into a deep, calm, and profoundly peaceful sleep.